London. Oh, and also today's event will be recorded for social media purposes for anybody who hasn't been able to arrive. Thanks to my co-host there, C. Chang. Okay, in that case, we'll move on to ACE Learning. Is ACE Learning here today?
Hi, I'm here. And I'm here with my colleague, Zaina. So I'll get my screen shared. Oh, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Sorry, let me just allow you to make you a co-host, I guess. There you are.
Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah,
looks good to me.
See your screen.
Okay. So hello everyone, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak about our organization today. So me and my colleague Zaina are presenting ACE Learning. And so we are a nonprofit organization, and we were started by some Western University students during COVID. And we're dedicated to helping children in grades 1 to 8 with online learning and skill building. And so this really started to help those, especially younger students who have an ESL background, to kind of adapt to online learning, who have challenges with that. And so what does ACE stand for? ACE stands for Ask. So we really encourage students to come to us and ask any questions they have about homework, assignments, and lesson help. And we really want to create a comfortable environment for them to ask those questions. And we also create lesson plans ourselves. So something good about us is that we kind of tailor the learning resources to each student. And that way each student kind of gets their level of engagement that they need. And finally, E stands for engage. So we really want to create a very fun and engaging environment for these kids to kind of discover new interests and skills. And so this might include online games or activities that help them stimulate their learning interests. And so the main program we have is the one-on-one tutoring program. So in this program, you will be paired with a learner and you guys meet virtually for up to 1 hour a week. And this is typically done over Zoom. You give a lot of flexibility in terms of what kind of subjects you can tutor, but the most common ones are English, math, science, and French. And something important to know is that we limit who we support to learners in grades 1 to 8. And this is just because we have a lot of students in grades 1 to 8 who need help right now. So that's a little bit about the one-on-one tutoring program. We also have a tailored tutoring program. So this is for if you want to kind of work more behind the scenes and help create lesson plans that our tutors can use. This is really important because, as I mentioned before, we try to create our own lesson plans tailored to each student. And so as a tailored tutoring program leader, you will be making your own resources or kind of going online and finding resources and putting them all together into a database. And this is actually really fun, going out and making your own resources. But for those who kind of don't really know how this works, we have a whole team that's there to support you in creating these resources for our students. And I'll let Zina take it away from here.
Okay, so why should you volunteer with us? There's so many benefits in being a tutor, and volunteering is all about the impact you make on others. And as a tutor, you'll be working on a one-to-one basis with a learner and providing them with the support and tools they need to acquire new skills to succeed at school. And most of our learners, as Shirley mentioned, they immigrate to Canada within the past 2 years, and they're learning a new language, which they might find difficult and daunting. And as a tutor, you will help support them and guide them through the process of gaining confidence in their ability to learn a new language. And as a tutor, you'll also be acquiring important skills, especially when it pertains to communication. You'll learn how to explain different topics in very simple terms, and use different methods to explain one topic, and you'll learn how to communicate with kids and have a better understanding on how you can talk to them and create a safe environment for them. And it also provides an understanding about the difficulties that children face at school and the problems with the education system and ways that we can solve them. And what is really great about ACE Learning is the flexibility that you have, as Shirley mentioned. You get to decide the hours that you want to volunteer and the time that you want to volunteer and the subjects. The recruitment process is very simple. And first, you'll be completing an application form. This will just allow us to see whether you'll be a good fit in our organization. And if we think you'll be a great tutor, we'll arrange a brief interview, which is a great opportunity for volunteers to get to know the organization a little bit more and ask the questions they have. Once that's complete, we will require that you provide a police check, but you can use one that's within a year old. And there'll also be a training workshop to ensure that you feel confident before your first tutoring sessions. Next slide, sorry.
Okay.
ACE Learning has supported over 70 learners, and we're very thankful for everyone's trust in us. And we hope to continue supporting as many learners as possible and continue providing a safe space, not only for our learners, but also our volunteers. And we hope that you guys join our organization and help us accomplish our mission. Shirley, next slide, please. If you're interested in learning more about the organization, you can scan the QR code on the bottom right corner, and we hope to read your applications and meet you guys. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions?
I guess not, in which case, thank you very much, Shirley and Zena, for presenting today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
No problem. Okay, moving on. We'll next have Victim Services of London and Middlesex.
And have you given me able to share my screen?
Of course, one moment, please.
Okay, so, oh, yeah, I think I can do now. I'm gonna, before I start the presentation, I've got a little video that I'd like to show. It's just about a 2-minute video, but it should give a little synopsis about the organization. So I'm gonna start with that. Can you see the start of the video?
Yeah.
Okay.
As a first responder, you are regularly faced with the aftermath of crimes and tragic circumstances. From sudden deaths to house fires to domestic violence and beyond, you are not only responsible for managing the immediate crisis, but may feel compelled to support the victims and survivors afterwards. Often, the most difficult part of your job is leaving victims or survivors behind, unsure if they'll have the necessary support to regain their self-reliance and relieve their distress. Victim Services of Middlesex-London is a non-profit agency committed to supporting all victims of crime and tragic circumstances on scene with emotional support and practical referrals. With a simple phone call from police, fire, or EMS, we'll gather relevant information and immediately dispatch a team of crisis responders to the scene, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Not only do we provide immediate on-scene support, but we also follow up with victims days and weeks afterwards to offer further planning, support, and referrals. As well, if a victim is not ready or does not require immediate support, it's never too late for us to provide non-urgent support in the days and weeks after a call, based on your referral via phone, email, or Victim Services template. So how exactly can Victim Services of Middlesex-London help? Imagine the sudden death of a loved one and the inevitable impact on the surviving spouse. We can provide emotional support, assistance contacting family members or a funeral home, or simply remain with the spouse on scene until family arrives. In the case of a house fire, we can provide necessary referrals for shelter, food, and clothing, even transportation to a safe location. For victims of domestic violence, we can provide safety planning, window or door repairs, installation of alarms, access to a cell phone, safe accommodations, and much more. We even have the ability to access St. John ambulance therapy dogs who can attend on scene to provide an additional layer of comfort and support. Once contacted directly by you or through dispatch upon your request, Victim Services of Middlesex-London is able to provide on-scene support during any crime and any tragic circumstance, while ensuring that no victim is ever left alone. Visit our website to learn more about Victim Services of Middlesex-London. We're here when you need us.
Okay, just 1 second. I'm just going to share my PowerPoint now. Okay. Can everyone see? Can you see that presentation starting? The slide one?
Looks great.
Okay, so thanks anyone for inviting me. I thought I'd just start out with a video before I introduce myself. I'm Dale Jardine. I'm the volunteer coordinator at Victim Services. The video that I just showed was basically the crisis responder role is a volunteer role. And so we have over 100 volunteers at Victim Services. And I'll do a quick synopsis of the role. So requirements to be a crisis responder: must be 18, you must live in Middlesex County. There's an expectation of 1 year commitment after the training, and it's a fairly intense training, which I will discuss in a little later here. You need to have a vehicle and a driver's license, vulnerable sector check, a driver's abstract, which is, I think it costs $8, and you can get it done through the ministry very quickly. We have just started to collect COVID vaccinations, dose 2s. And so the pre-work to become a crisis responder, so on scene, is that you're going to get a 40-hour online training. I start the bulk of the group. So I do two groups per year, and the bulk of the group will start kind of end of December, and they'll have about a month and a half to plug away at 23 modules. Each module will take about 20 to 40 minutes that they can do at their own pace. So they get the theory behind them all done at their own pace. And then we start to meet on a practical level for 7 days. They're usually all evenings or 2 weekends. I book that before I even interview anyone. I explain exactly the days that we're booking. And so this group would be probably starting to volunteer by April 1st, the first around there. And most of the training would be done at the police station. That's where our office is. So what the role entails, so we always volunteers respond in teams of 2. Classically, we'll have a new volunteer and a senior volunteer. So even though there's a lot of training involved, you will be paired up with someone that's senior to yourself and will normally lead an interaction with a victim on scene, and so that you can get to know how to get better at that. You may travel anyway through London or the county, so you could have to travel to Strathroy, Lucan. We would never go outside the county. We do cover mileage, so that cost would be covered fairly quickly. And you're basically normally a classic call would be you'd be attending a victim's home to support them after a tragic circumstance. The expectation of volunteers is that you're going to make your on-call schedule. You have access to the basically the entire calendar year, and you can book the shifts you want. And so you could do, if you wanted, you could figure out all weekends, or if you have a space in your calendar, you could do a 7 till 1 or a 1 till 7, and you're on call and there may not be a call. So we may be on average, we did less than about a 1 call a day, but I may have up to 12 volunteers ready to go. So you're not used on every shift. And then if you do get a call, you'll be contacted by a team leader, which is also another volunteer. And then they will tell you, they'll give you directions of where to go, what the call is, what a police officer or emergency service you'll meet on scene. And they'll guide you a little bit when you get there, and they'll introduce you to the victim to support. The average call basically takes about an hour. Some calls take longer. If someone is sexually assaulted and they're going to St. Joe's Sexual Assault Center, that may take 4 to 6 hours, especially if a full forensic examination occurs. But that is a fairly rare for us to be there for that full call. And we've really been active. Once COVID hit, by July, we were already back on scene. So we give you all PPE. We have lots of different protocols, but we have been a very active organization through the pandemic. Just to give you a sample of some of the calls maybe. So elder abuse. The most common two of this whole list would be domestic violence and sudden deaths. Third, maybe suicide or attempt suicide. And then maybe sexual assault. But I would say between domestic violence and a sudden death, that's probably about 80% of our calls. I always like to give volunteers a kind of a sense of what the average call would look like. There's just a little bit of stats on slides in terms of our volunteer callouts during the last in 2019, 2020. You can see where the bottom two there, sudden death and domestic violence, how many calls we've done there. And then it gets to, there are some that are very, very small. I think one of the trends in COVID has been that there's been more house fires, which is a very different call. And in terms of it turns very much more to practical support, and where motor vehicle collisions have reduced. And it's probably because so many of us have been home more. And then some of the agencies that will call us. So our crisis line is for emergency services only. And so we do have, again, Middlesex OPP, London Police Services, Strathroy Callouts Police Service are the main ones. But we could go to any of the First Nation police services, EMS. The Sexual Assault Center could call us if someone walked in there, and if someone was looking for support. Yeah, so that's some of the agencies, and yeah, so that's my contact information. If you have any questions, our website's there. We have an application online through there, and I will touch base with someone once they've filled out an application. The training that I've kind of presented here is for the people would start in April. I do 2 trainings a year. So the other training would, you would start through in the summer doing your online training, and then the practical would start in September. And I'm just graduating a class this Thursday, so that I'll have volunteers starting basically the first week of November. And that's my phone number. And yeah, our office is right out of the police station on 601 Dundas. So that is the presentation. Any questions from anyone?
I got a question.
Sure.
So I just wanted to confirm, are you guys affiliated with London Emergency Services?
No, so we are a standalone charity, and we've been established for over 20 years. And so we are funded by the Ministry of Attorney General. And so we're definitely linked very closely with the police. Like, so we've got an office at the OPP station and the Dundas Street London Police Services. And there's a lot of kind of a liaison between the emergency response piece. Like if there was kind of a major community event, our executive director sits on that board, and we would respond, say, to a mass casualty event. So like the building collapse that happened recently. So we had 5 volunteers there. We've had bigger events like the Strathroy Callouts. There was an apartment fire. So we sent, I think, 4 volunteers up there. And so bigger events, we'll definitely be there for. With time commitment, sorry, I just saw that in chat, there was a question about time commitment. So once, so obviously the build up the training to become a crisis responder, it's about 70 hours to get you going. But once you started, you're basically doing about 6 6-hour shifts per month that you book. Or you could do 312s if you wanted to do an overnight, if you could, as long as you would respond to a page in the middle of the night. And so you could do 312s in a month, and that would be, you'd be filling the commitment. So, any other questions?
Do you know of any other victim services chapters in around Ontario?
Oh yeah, there's over 50 victim services. I think over 50 victim services in Ontario. So we're all governed by the Ministry of Attorney General, and they give us our protocols, and that's where kind of we're guided by. And so yeah, there's pretty much in every county region. And right now we are all using it's called Learn to Help website, which is the online training tool. We're all basically using that standardized module system to train our volunteers in a 3-stage crisis intervention model.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? Alrighty then. So the next up we have, I believe we have Children's Aid of London Middlesex, who has graciously shared a video for us to enjoy. So I'll just start sharing my screen. Okay, share screen. And I'll just hit present on theirs. So this is, I guess, what Children's Aid Society has asked me to share. Here's their application information. Currently recruiting for virtual homework helpers, which is nice. Here's a volunteer homework helper role. Essentially, I think what they want is people to assist children in subjects where they find it's difficult, and as well, submit a written report monthly and report any concerns they have to Child Protection Services immediately. Time commitment is usually 1 hour per week throughout the child academic year, so September to December, and then January to June, or during the summer months if additional help is needed. They also have another role called the friendly visitor. It's just to provide friendship and socialization to a child, to act as a role model for displaying responsible, good problem-solving skills, and to assist a child in accessing community services or help them in schoolwork, and just be essentially a peer mentor. So it's around 2 times a week, bi-weekly, for at least 2 hours. So here's some additional information from the coordinator there. Her name is Joannie Pearson. I'll leave that up for anybody who wants to take a photo. And I think that is all. So nice. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, so we'll move on to Vaughan Middlesex-London. Let me just stop that share. Can anybody see that? Sichen, can we see the video?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. Can you hear it?
I can't hear it.
Okay. Let me just quickly share. I don't know how to share the sound. CJ, do you know how to share it? There it is, share sound. Got it.
More than 120 years ago, VON was established to connect with and to provide care for people living in all regions of a growing country. We created an order of visiting nurses to care for the ill and infirm in their homes and communities, and to help people remain healthy. We founded cottage hospitals and we set the standard for care and comfort in towns and byways across this country. Today, we're still making connections. The world has changed, but people's personal aspirations and their struggles, fears, and feelings of isolation haven't gone away. At VON, we continue to make one-to-one and heart-to-heart connections that bring people peace of mind. We help them at home and in their communities to live their fullest lives every day, delivering the comforting warmth of a hot meal on a cold day, enabling those who want to learn and grow, or guiding someone on a challenging journey. Shouldering a role so a person caring for someone can take care of themselves, providing that breather that a caregiver needs. It's about staying engaged and active with those around you. It's about making a new friend or two. Your commitment ensures that we can continue to offer innovative clinical, personal, and social support in your home or community. Your contributions as a family member, an employee, a volunteer, a donor, or partner help ensure that each person we touch gets the most out of life every day.
All right. So thank you very much for VON for sharing their video. Does anybody have any questions about VON? Okay, and I received a message that Meals on Wheels London will unfortunately be unable to join us today, I think. So I think that is all of the organizations that we have today. I asked that any presenters that we have present today, could you please add your contact information to the chat so that way everybody can contact you easily. And does anybody have any last questions? Okay, so have the presenters shared their information on the chat? Thank you, Ace Learning. I think, I'm not sure if Victim Services has left already, but if anybody else has any questions, feel free to reach out to the Student Relief team. It's info@studentrelief.ca, I believe, is our email. And we want to thank you all for coming out today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.